Joe, thank you for joining me for the last part of our finances and dealing with the COVID crisis series. I appreciate you coming on and helping out. Thank you.
So, hey there, everybody who's listening. Surprise, it's me again.
You're just an old pro here, but I'm glad
I
you're
always
on.
like coming back on here. This is a good time.
Yeah, I like having you on, Joe, because one, you love to talk about savings, but two, like more importantly, you and the Coastal team, everybody I've met so far has been really focused on helping people wherever they are financially get to a better spot. And that's kind of the goal of the series, is not only to get through this, this situation, but is there a way that we can set things up with our finances so that we're in a stronger position? So when things get better, we can make a lot more progress with our money goals. So I'm always grateful to have you on.
So it's always good to be here. And I'm glad you mentioned, where we are, where you are in your financial journey, because that's the core part of what we do in terms of just helping people with financial well-being. It doesn't matter where you are, whether you're at step 1 or step 50. What can we do to help you get to the next one and the next one and the next one? And help you prioritize what is important to you, identify what your needs are, and help you take that next step. So that's, hopefully we're talking to some people who are find themselves in a position to, we've gotten through this COVID-19 situation, or we will soon. What's the next step look like?
Yes. And so if you've been following in the series, in part 1, we were just kind of focusing on being in a situation where you're trying to just make sure the ends meet and that you're not getting further in the hole. And then we were talking about building that savings, which is absolutely important. But we do know there are some in the community where they're doing okay right now. They have some savings and they're both working. The question is, they realize based on this crisis that they're not happy with what they were doing before with their finances. They feel like, man, we've been carrying too much debt. We're not putting enough aside for like investing or retirement. And we got to change something. So I kind of want to talk to you about this, Joe, is how can couples talk and work on their finances so they're able to come out of this stronger? They can ride this out and have their finances in a better position.
So I think my first 3 things that I'll say about it aren't necessarily financial, but you can apply them to your financial situation.
Oh, okay.
And so the first one's don't ignore it. We just came through a scary, stressful, emotional time. A lot of people's financial vulnerabilities were quickly exposed. Don't ignore that. Take the time to evaluate what happened, how it affected you directly. What was the cause of that? Why did it happen? But do that while it's still fresh. It's uncomfortable when it's still fresh, but do it while it's still fresh because you've got the most information available to you. When you work on a project and something doesn't go right, you got to go back there the next day and say, okay, what happened? Yeah. What happened? Why did it happen? What can we do to make that better? The exact same true is going to be with your finances. That's not necessarily financial advice, but apply it to your situation. Is we were exposed to where our weaknesses are.
Yeah.
And what can we learn from that? And what can we learn from that right now? So the second one is get rid of any thought you have about that can't happen to me. Because it did. It happened. It happened to all of us.
Yeah.
Chances are it did. Now you didn't die, you didn't get sick, you didn't lose your job. You came through it okay, but you were still negatively affected in some way. You couldn't do the thing you wanted to do. You couldn't visit friends and family. Something happened to you that you're going to have to learn from and prepare for it to happen the next time. Because something will happen in the future, and it'll require you to have learned something now and apply it then. What it was for me?
What was it?
It's I don't stockpile anything. I like to go out to eat.
I'm kind of surprised by you, Joe.
I like to go out to eat. I don't go grocery shopping for weeks at a time. I buy things for days at a time. So when I found myself suddenly having to meal plan and stock up on food, one, it was a lot harder to do that. And two, when I did get out and was able to go to the store, they didn't have half of what I was looking for.
Yes.
So I was not prepared for things like meals and paper products and cleaning supplies. I just, I had to kind of become resourceful on the fly because that's not how I function.
I'm just surprised by this.
I've taken for granted. Well, I've taken for granted the fact that it's always available to me. True. But for me, my food savings was at the store.
I see. But I think you do have a point there is you kind of realize like, man, I didn't know this is how I was handling my finances or my routine, but this is what it is. And it is an eye-opener.
It can and will happen to you. And, this was unique in that it happened to everybody at the same time in a different way, but it happened to everybody at the same time. When things pop up in the future, it's maybe still something you haven't anticipated, but things will happen. They will affect you. So forget the fact that, forget the thought that it can't happen to you. It's going to happen to you. The third thing, and this is a positive, is focus on the positives. You got through this. You got through this. What were the bright spots? How do you build on that? What worked for you really well that, thinking ahead into the future, like, okay, I can build on that, whether it's, personal, financial, for me, it was, I had to be resourceful. Remember, I said, I couldn't find paper products. Well, you know what? I've gotten used to using cloth napkins and, shop rags have replaced paper towels. I'm doing a lot more laundry because of it, but I was able to adapt on the fly. And so for me, it's okay. Well, I need to know that you need to stock up on some of that stuff in the future, but also you need to know how you adapt in situations. And so, I'm talking about it in terms of stocking up on things, but people can do that financially as well. You learn that, oh, well, wait a minute. Suddenly I didn't have as many expenses as I normally would. Was I able to repurpose some of, my income into planning for the future, saving, or, getting myself into a better financial situation later on? And then how do I just keep repeating that behavior going forward? Now, there are some things that people can do financially in the situation. One is redo your budget. Has your income changed? A lot of people are affected, one or two members of their household, maybe experienced some unemployment during this time. Maybe they've gone back to work, but now they've got a different income level. So how does that now account into your monthly budget? How are you going to do that? Look back on your experience and find out, okay, well, which expenses that you had which of those quickly became liabilities? And what were problem spots during the situation that you might want to rethink later on? Like, oh, maybe that's a bill that I shouldn't have in the future because it became a problem pretty quickly once everything got a little crazy. And then, what were you able to get relief on this time that you might not be able to next time? So, and for the COVID-19 situation, a lot of lenders were deferring loans and forgiving certain things. You had landlords that were pushing rent payments out. People would be flexible on a lot of things, utilities were. And a lot of that is because it affected everybody.
Yeah.
Your next emergency is probably, in fact, I'd bet money. And you remember, I don't gamble. I would bet money your next emergency is going to be your emergency. It's not going to be a local or national emergency, or in this case, a global pandemic. It's going to be your emergency. And there are things that you probably got assistance with this time that might not be there for you next time. So think about those things and how you plan for, how do you get through the situation in the future without that flexibility?
That's a good point.
And the way we do that was get our emergency funds in place.
I knew you were going to sneak that in there.
I'm always going to sneak in an emergency fund. So if you remember the last episode, we talked and we said, we've always traditionally talked about being able to cover a $400 expense and then working your way up to $1,000 and then thinking about saving up for 3 to 6 months living expenses. And we quickly found out that, that $400, that $1,000 isn't enough for most people. No. Most people needed to quickly find 3 to 6 months living expenses. So that's going to be your goal. Work towards saving up a little bit and repeat that over time, so you can't get yourself into a situation where if a situation happens and you need to find a way to survive for 3 months off of what you already have, you have it. So, our emergency fund becomes a very high priority coming out of this on the back end.
Definitely.
And then I think the last thing I would say from a financial situation is take a look at your discretionary spending. Maybe earmark a little bit more of it to spend at local businesses, local restaurants, give to local charities. The people who got our community through this, give them our support. The people that we know were quickly negatively affected are our local businesses. So, I'm not saying spend more money coming out of this. I'm saying spend more locally. Saying.
Yeah. And spend more thoughtfully too.
And that's what it comes down to, is spending thoughtfully. And that's on the discretionary side. I'm not saying put aside paying down your bill or paying down your loans or saving up for the future to spend and stimulate the economy. I'm saying of the money that, you've got a budget, you've got a spending plan, you've given yourself permission to spend some of your money, do it a little more thoughtfully and focus on local stuff.
Yeah. Because I think, at least for us, we saw that there were ways that we were spending and maybe like we didn't get the joy out of it. We were pretty good if you look at the food budget, not eating out as much, but still we realized, you know what, we don't need to eat out this much, or we weren't, those lunches out weren't as enjoyable for what we were spending and getting out of that. And then just saying like, do I want to keep it at this level or maybe redirect it? Like we've rediscovered 2 new hobbies. With home brewing, I got a batch right now.
Nice.
That should be ready by Friday, and we're going to start a new one. And then also stargazing. Like we got a telescope with the girls. That's kind of been like our go-to when there's clear skies. These are at-home hobbies that we can do that are fairly affordable. So for, families that they are looking at a necessity, they were cutting expenses, they may have discovered like, wait a minute, there's fun ways we can hang out, or as a couple, like ways we could enjoy time together without having to go out and spend X amount of money.
No, that's true. That's absolutely true.
Yeah. But the thoughtful spending, I think, is definitely a key takeaway. And I kind of want to talk to you also about goals. Like setting up those goals. And you had some really good steps about that. Are there any like tips and personal experience? Like do you guys come up with your goals? Like, do you talk about money monthly or quarterly or kind of as needed when you're trying to set up for a new goal or, saving for a car, for example?
I'm a big fan of monthly. Too much more frequently than that, and it just becomes stressful. And honestly,
everyone has a rhythm.
You don't weigh yourself every couple hours. If you're trying to lose weight, you just you do it periodically and see what kind of progress you're making. So I think once you've laid out a plan for what you're trying to do, revisit all that monthly. You'll see your progress. You'll be able to kind of assess what's working, what's not working. You may come up with new goals.
Yes.
But you don't want to sit down, every week and try to go through finances, because things don't work. That's not the kind of cycle that you're on.
Yeah.
Most bills that you experience are monthly or quarterly. So I like doing a monthly check-in, seeing what's progressing, what's not. First of the month for me is spreadsheet day.
I'm so surprised.
Last month was frightening.
Everyone was up for surprises then.
Yeah. But, you have to think about what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish. And are you on track? Are you off track? What kind of adjustments do you need to make? Actually, I had a small emergency recently and, didn't need to tap the emergency fund for it because I had some extra money in a travel fund that I'm not using. So, so I figured it was okay to take it out of the travel budget in the short term and then just replenish that later on. But that's an adjustment that you make along the way. But I think for the most part, a monthly check-in is the way to go. Always take a look at, what are your goals? What are you trying to
Mhm.
accomplish this year, over the next several years, and then your long term.
Mhm.
What is your
Mhm.
long term goal? I've been tracking what retirement looks like probably since I started working, but yeah, early on that was difficult
Yeah.
because you'd want to be like, well, I'm not making any progress here. But you have to get into that routine of, okay, well, I'm just gonna, just keep at it, and make my little adjustments as I go, but just keep at it. And most of your goals are going to be shorter term than that, but
Mhm.
you still have to, come up with a way to get there. And if you think like, oh, if I want to buy a car in the next 3 years, okay, well, what does that look like? Do I want a down
Mhm.
payment? Do I want to pay for it in full? And then, okay, well, here's what I think it's going to cost. How do I
Mhm.
divide that up? And then, make those regular contributions to whatever account you're putting that money into.
Yeah.
And you're not going to see it one or two times. You got to wait to, okay, well, I'm going to check in the first month, check in the second month, and you start to see progress towards that thing. You realize, okay, well, this is something I'm doing, and it's working, and I'm going to get there. Or here's where I fell short. Here's
Yeah.
why I fell short. You can look back on a couple of weeks, and
Mhm.
you don't want to wait 6 months and go, well, what did I do? What did I do 4 months ago that got me off track?
Yeah.
That's just, it's never going to work. But it's easy to take a look back 3 weeks ago and figure out, oh, here's something that I did, and that's why I took money out of this account that I probably shouldn't have. Or to look ahead a few weeks and say, here's what I need to do over the next couple of weeks. So for me, a monthly check-in's good.
Yeah, I agree with you. Part of it is, while I would say about 85% of our budget is probably going to be consistent month to month. There's things that come up. I know we're not traveling now, but usually during the summer months, you're going to do more travel, or, you might have, if you have kids, school supplies. Like, there's a rhythm in the season. So your finances naturally should reflect that. And it's good, monthly basis. If something is off, you can adjust it. If something's going well, hey, let's continue doing that, and having these check-ins. But I think you hit the nail with consistency. Like, that is a key part of with your finances. You don't have to put 500 down this month and then nothing down the next month. You're not going to make the progress you want. But if you can say, we're cutting our spending by 100 a month, but now we've automated that money to either go to savings or investments, whatever the goal is, then you're going to see the progress, piece by piece, rather than, oh, I'm hoping that, I'm going to do really well this month, but you don't have a plan for the next month. So,
Right. And so you can put the processes in place to automate that. And then when you develop a routine, it just becomes a habit.
yeah. Yeah. And
So
so,
the things that you can't automate, you just commit to making them habits.
absolutely. So, I don't call this like crisis a good thing, but some good can come out of it when we decide, maybe, what, let's change for the better our financial habits, so that an emergency comes or something else comes up, we can at least ride it out better, or at least minimize the effects, and the stress that can come out from it. So I'm so glad, Joe, that you've been able to join me with this mini series, with the practical tips to kind of help all of us get in a better spot financially, no matter where we are in our own financial journey. Thank you for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm glad we made it through.
Yes, we did it. And guys, hopefully you're doing well, with your finances. But if you're looking for a better banking option, please consider Coastal Credit Union. If you're in the Triangle area of Raleigh, we've been members for over 5 years, been very happy with the service. And if you are saving for goals, I'm going to let you know from personal experience, they have competitive rates on checking and savings. And I recently used their auto tool to purchase a car for my husband this year. Got a great deal on it. So please check out Coastal and all they have to offer at bankbetter.org. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Al.